as we jump into this best of 5. Immediately, Yone taken away from the side of Fnatic.
And I think the first question that springs to many people's minds is, will G2 continue to ban Jace and Rumble in every single game? Here, Kai'Sa is their first ban, but we heard on Euphoria from Dylan, their priorities in draft are just a little different to other teams. They didn't want to prioritize the Rumble, they didn't want to prioritize the Jace. Has that changed coming into playoffs?
It's going to be a big question. We see the bot lane being the focus for now. Kai'Sa, an upset staple, going to be taken away from him, with Kalista, a Hansama staple, taken away as well. Means that we're leaning more towards things like the Ezreals, the Varus, still going to be up there in terms of priority, but Talia still available. We see many junglers like the Pantheon, the Vi, the Xin Zhao, all very prevalent here on patch 25.10.
Yeah, obviously the Vi and the Xin Zhao got nerfed on the other patch, but in this patch they are still very, very strong, and I imagine these will be very highly contested. We saw SkewMond on Xin Zhao in Paris versus KC completely pop off game 1, and for me that is one of the key picks that I'm looking at for them to secure early on this 1-2 rotation on red side.
So here we have the Talia and the Poppy removed by both the teams. Final ban, we're going to have either Jace or Rumble left up. We'll see where G2 decide to go. Obviously, leaving both of them up means that they'll definitely get one of them. We still have the Maokai, we still have Vi as two very powerful junglers as well.
Yeah, crucially, a lot of the junglers are being left up in this game 1.
Well,
so we're probably going to see a nice trade of to the power picks here. You can either choose take the one you really like, or knowing you're going to get one of the strong junglers anyway, you can choose to put your priorities somewhere else.
Azir being the first lock-in for Fnatic means that G2 have the pick of the litter with a number of strong top laners. Jace is available, the Rumble is also up. Maokai has been something we've seen a decent amount from SkewMond throughout the regular splits. So many very powerful picks still available in the meta. I wonder what direction Caps will be thinking. Will he look for something like a control mage, or will he be thinking of something like the Akali, which he's been known to bring out in this matchup in the past? As the AD carry seems to be the priority for G2 for now.
The only time Humanoid's won on Azir this split was actually against G2. He lost the other 2 games he played against MKOI and KC. There's the Varus, still one of the most powerful AD carries in the meta when you get rid of Kalista for the early game. Varus just gives you so much flexibility. You can go on hit if you want, or you can just look for a poking lane to get that push priority in bot side.
Yeah, I mean, crucially, that is the thing you say, the push priority. Varus being picked almost guarantees you to have that. But as we see, Akali, for, I assume, Caps, that obviously could go into either solo lane, but that's a very strong pick to pick against Azir, and very early, and I wonder if Fnatic can kind of respond to this Akali pick with some kind of lockdown.
So we were talking about the Vine nerfs coming into this week, and you were the one that said to me, I do not think that these nerfs are enough to knock her out of pro play, and Razork immediately seems to agree with you. They want that lockdown capabilities for the Akali. I think it can also be good against low mobility AD carries like the Varus, as the Rumble paired alongside it already. Fnatic have a very strong top side with a lot of lockdown and pick potential.
Yeah, I mean, crucially, having that buy, cease, and desist on top of the equalizer makes it so hard to survive unless you have some kind of really strong peak potential against it. So it's going to be very important now to see how Hansama positions in the team fights regarding this, because it makes him very hard for him to ever step up if these tools are available.
And G2 rounding out their first set of 3 with the Ornn here. Long range engage, great tank in the top lane as well, can kind of neutralize the Rumble to a small degree. You are still going to get pushed in early game.
Yeah, after all the Rumble Q damage nerfs, the laning phase is not really that big of an issue anymore for the Ornn. So having that is also great, because that means you have great gank setup onto the Rumble. If the Rumble ever tries to play aggressive, and Ornn has his jungle behind him, it's just so much CC, and it becomes an easy kill for the Rumble. So I imagine top lane is going to be a bit of a snooze fest, while both players try to farm, and the action will happen somewhere else.
I'm thinking about supports right now, and I'm wondering how priority things like the Nico are. Especially given that Akali in her Shroud, Nico can do a really good job of still providing that lockdown into the Akali specifically. Nautilus is also something they could be thinking about, maybe as a takeaway, but of course G2 will get priority on that support pick.
I really think if you're G2, you're thinking a lot about Braum as well, right? Because if Braum is picked into the Ornn, it really mitigates a lot of what he wants to do later on in the game. You can see they got rid of the Lucian, which is obviously a great combination with the Braum. They'll get rid of that Nico as well, so good spot there, Ben.
Yeah, and I wonder if actually they're trying to bait the Braum here, because knowing that they have the last pick with the Varus, if you blind pick the Braum into a Varus lane, you can actually end up with a really, really difficult bot lane matchup for your bot lane.
That's probably why we saw the Renata ban as well in the event that Fnatic do want to go defensive. My concern for Fnatic is how much lockdown do they have for the Akali? Of course, Vi is really good at threatening that backline. You've then got Azir and you've got the Rumble in terms of follow-up. There's the Zhao that we kind of expected. But I'm expecting Fnatic to go for a little bit more utility, and it looks like Rell will be the direction, and Labrov will be able to get his most played of the regular split with Alistar. These last 4 picks, very quick, very clean. Both teams very much know what they want. But Fnatic rounding out with a decent amount of team fighting. You can see the front to back, decent poke provided with both the Corki and the Azir, with the potential backline threat of the Rumble and the Vi.
And I gotta say, last time these two teams played, Labrov's Alistar was crucial in the first victory against Fnatic. He had so many great pulverize attempts onto the bot lane of Fnatic, and I really like this pick for him. I think it's one of his standout picks for me, and I love that they're putting Labrov on comfort first game in the playoffs. And what we are looking at, crucially, is can Labrov and SkewMond finally find their footing as a support jungle duo? Because I think that's been one of the main criticisms towards G2, and I want to see if they've actually worked on this in this 2-week break.
100% agree with that, and I think the part of that people are seeing as the slightly weaker half is Labrov. SkewMond has had actually a relatively good spring as a jungler, but the synergy between them and Labrov's individual play, I think, has not been up to par. And when you're playing up against a support like Mikyx, who has so much experience on the stage, who has had an exceptional split so far, there's a lot of weight on Labrov's shoulders in this series and in Game 1 in particular.
We were denied a best of 5 of G2 versus Fnatic in winter, but here in spring it will be our first on the docket. An intense matchup between two long-standing rivals. We're going to get to see caps on Akali in Game 1 going up against Humanoid's Azir. Let's get into game.
I actually looked up some stats on caps playing Akali for G2 versus Fnatic. He has played it 5 times before today and only won 1 of those times. And that's during like G2's golden eras. That's during 2019. That's during the time that G2 ruled the roost here in Europe. We'll see if Humanoid on his Azir can put this Akali in his place.
Yeah, and we see he has went for the Electrocute rune, which I really enjoy, because usually we see Akalis, sometimes there is a certain player who went for the triple mask build, but Caps actually went for Electrocute, and to me that is very telling that he's going to be going into a full damage Akali build. None of that Leandri's kind of bruiser-ish Akali. He's going to go for the full damage with those buffed API items and really try to assassinate the backline of Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of eggs are going to be in the Caps basket, but he's going to be playing up against a champion that has kind of only known success in the league, which is this Rumble. You can see how dominant it has been here in the LEC, and this is why the first thing Medic brought up is, what will G2's priority be on the champion? They had a rotation to grab it for themselves. They chose to respond with the Ornn, so a lot of pressure is going to be on Broken Blade to mitigate the impact of Oscar on this Rumble, just because of how generically powerful the champion is.
I will say I really do like the Ornn into the Rumble. I think it's one of the classic counters that did not really work for a lot of time, just because Rumble's lane prowess was that strong. But after the nerfs to the Rumble Q damage, I think right now the Ornn is going to be able to neutralize the Rumble and kind of find its footing in those team fights when Caps is diving onto the backline with the backup of that Ornn ultimate.
I will say it is a bit of an EU classic that when playoffs rolls round, lock in the Ornn, keep it stock standard. And I mean, Ornn really does simplify the games in many ways.
Yeah, it's a classic, and every top laner in Europe, at least when I played, knew how to play Ornn. I think maybe now with all these rookies coming in, maybe it's not as known, but this champion was a staple from the year 2018 to 2022 at least. I think it was played every single playoffs.
Let's see what Broken Blade can do on it in this game. Fnatic coming in as the heavy favorites to this series, but we've talked a lot about how when the teams met up in winter, it was G2 were able to come out victorious in 2-0 fashion. A best of 5 fearless changes things a lot. We will see a lot more champions played. We will see things like the Rumble now. It doesn't work in Game 1 where you don't even get to use it for the rest of the series. Caps trying to trade with Humanoid in mid lane, lands the Shuriken flip, but obviously isn't going to follow up on that.
Yeah, I mean, as you rightly said, Fnatic very much should be considered heavy favorites based on what we've seen of the regular season. But G2 have this tendency of when the playoffs roll around, they tend to recognize a lot of their issues and they are able to fix those issues. And you can see in terms of the all-time head-to-head, it is very much G2 favored throughout the years.
Yeah, and I think one of the main concerns for G2 has been the drafts. I think there's been a lot of criticism to their tendencies to pick very weird placed champions. And I really like that game 1, while they have some spikes with Akali and the Ornn, it's still a very solid, classic, foundationalized draft from G2.
Good one, Jack. No, but I will say, I love it that in modern League of Legends, we talk about Ornn as adding some spice into the draft. This stock standard tank SkewMond, after clearing bot top, is looking for Oscarinin on the top side. You talked about the CC potential, the follow-up potential of this Ornn, but it looks like SkewMond instead is just going to go across and secure his first Scuttle Crab.
Yeah, and crucial that all that gank setup comes from that Ornn Q ability. If you land that pillar, the fact that it's going to slow you means it is always going to be able to land the dash into the knockup. But as long as Oscar can kind of dodge that Q ability, it's going to be very hard for BrokenBlade to have any sort of proactive trades onto him.
Labrov going in onto Mikyx here. We'll have the trample stun. Mikyx crashes down, gets the shield back up, Upset the new target. Heal coming out from Labrov. The stun lands, the cleanse away. Upset has to flash as well. I thought the stun had timed out there from Labrov, but he got it off on the last second. BrokenBlade and Oscar trading in the top lane, but there's no one here to help them out.
Very nice trading from the G2 bottom lane. Getting the better of Upset and Mikyx, and crucially getting both those summoner spells out from Upset. Sets up for SkewMond to look for a play on the bot side. And got to talk about it as well. I'm not quite sure what happened in the mid lane matchup because they were dead even a moment ago, and then all of a sudden Caps blows up a huge 12 CS lead between the two. In the early game, this matchup is traditionally quite difficult for the Akali to play. You can obviously get a few trades back and forth, but to build this kind of a lead, Caps is doing very well in the 1v1.
Very uncommon for Akali to be doing this well, yeah. As you say, this lead is unnatural. Usually we'll see Azir at least have push, but I've also seen the wave be in the middle quite frequently. Humanoid hasn't really gotten a clean crash onto Caps a single time this laning phase, and just goes to show that when playoffs comes around, Caps is just him.
It's also, his laning phase has been really good this split. It's after the laning phase where Caps has struggled a little bit more. BrokenBlade looking for the knock up here. Equalizer comes out from Oscarinin. Hans Summer already swapped up towards this top side. Oscarinin not being too greedy with his positioning there, doesn't get caught out, and BrokenBlade can now base and TP to the bottom side.
Yeah, and the large part about this is also something you've experienced a lot, Finn, where as the matchup will go on, you can already see Oscar starting to build that lead, but Ornn is more than happy to play in the 2 versus 1. The Rumble, of course, will have the equalizer to just clear out a wave should anything significant happen, but it's not uncommon and something we've been seeing a decent amount from G2, where they do swap BrokenBlade out when he's on these tank matchups because they know that he's very safe on the weak side.
Yeah, and crucial now, Rumble does not have an equalizer. He just used it to try to get a good trade on the BrokenBlade. So now, as we see, they're actually sending Mikyx up to defend it because they realize that Upset is farming fine against Ornn. We've got to make sure to secure a Rumble so he can farm. Because if his Rumble is left alone, he will actually struggle, and if Rumble doesn't get his items, he becomes very useless just because how big his scalings are with items.
So both the AD carries having a little bit of alone time here. We'll be getting towards those level 6 quicker than they usually would. Hans Summer has both his summoners, so not really at too much risk of a dive, especially as you say, because that equalizes down. Upset able to farm out the wave bot pretty effectively. Looks like, I'm wondering where Upset goes off this reset. He's currently opening up through mid. Looks like Humanoid's going to be sent bot. Having your bot lane in mid lane when grubs are about to come up is actually a really effective play. It means that you at least have 4 people on that side of the map. And because Humanoid doesn't have TP and Caps does, you have to send someone down to bot lane to answer it.
It also makes the matchup even harder for the Akali. And after securing the first Drake, Fnatic have got their priorities clear. So we find ourselves in a bit of a slower early game, but it is G2 with the small gold lead, largely being built in the mid lane matchup, but Fnatic with the small objective lead. So a bit of back and forth, kind of what we expect for game 1 of this best of 5.
Humanoid should be able to get a demolished proc off here. Doesn't quite work his way through the plate. Will collect the gold as the minions do the rest of the job for him. BrokenBlade tanks up a lot of damage as he tries to defend. Upset doesn't have the flash back up yet. His cleanse about to come off cooldown, but there's always the risk of an Akali all-in just killing him off. Even with just an amplifying tome and a Hextech alternator, this Akali's burst damage is pretty substantial.
Yeah, and I think Caps has played the Akali Corki matchups a lot of time. Actually, we'll see quite top.
Cease and desist. Chain of Corruption's going to come out from Hans Summer in a second. You have to feel the flash forward. There's the chains, but Hans locked up by Razork, and he will fall first. And Labrov chased away as well. And Fnatic will set up for what?
Yeah, and we talked about it, that's the Rumble Vi combo that so many people prioritize all across the globe. Everyone in every region is playing Rumble and Vi just because how simple the combo is. Guaranteed lockdown onto the equalizer, the damage is too high to survive in the early to mid game, and they get a nice easy first blood onto Hansama.
Fnatic now with priority over the Grubs as well, knowing they have the numbers advantage, but SkewMond sees an angle, and why shouldn't he? Oscar has just gone back to base.
Well, part of this is Mikyx was seen in the bot side river, trying to guard Humanoid from Caps roaming from mid down towards bot. So because Mikyx was seen, SkewMond knows he has a numbers advantage on this top side right now, allowing him to step in and get these last two Grubs.
Yeah, good awareness from SkewMond. Meanwhile, Mikyx is hovering on the bot side of the map, looking for an opportunity. But Caps is not going to give him one. He has that control ward in the brush. He's setting up the wave nicely. He should have a bit of a freeze going on here, meaning he can just hold the wave here for as long as he wants. But I imagine he's not going to be able to hold it for that much longer. Has the TP available, so he can always return to lane, and Humanoid's going to do just that. So it's Fnatic that draws first blood. The gold remains dead, even though itemization's still very comfortable across the board. But this Rumble's starting to get scary.
I was going to get slid back here, trying to jump around through Humanoid, but Razork's on his way, flash away from Caps. It's possible Razork wouldn't have connected, but Caps takes the safe route out.
A really nice look there by Razork, being very proactive, and Humanoid finding the shuffle when Caps doesn't have the shroud means he has to flash out. Really nice look by Humanoid, and now Caps will base, and by the empowered, or buffed I want to say, Proto Belt, and this is what we're talking about with the Electrocute, with the Proto Belt now, he has that reach. He can really gain a lot of distance with that perfect execution and the ultimates. And the Proto Belt, what am I saying?
No, you're right, you're a perfect execution, and the Proto Belt has been upgraded to the Rocket Belt a little while ago, but I know it's hard for us to get away from the old nomenclature of League of Legends items.
I'm a pro player, I still call him Ninja Tabai.
Get the Wriggles Lantern out, guys.
I'm old-fashioned like that.
Understandable, understandable. We see both the bot lanes butting heads in the mid lane, but Fnatic out to a small early lead here at the 10-minute mark. With the next Drake up in 40 seconds, Fnatic secured the first. G2 might want to fight around the second with that item spike on Caps being hit.
Crucially, you'll notice that Mikyx is going to go back to base, replenish those wards in anticipation of the ensuing dragon fight, picking up a control ward and replenishing his 2 wards. Puts him, 3 wards I should say rather, puts him in a very good position. Meanwhile, Humanoid investing the TP and Caps means that they're not likely going to have another opportunity to go back to base. This will be the itemization that they fight on, so SkewMond looking for a play. If he can chunk out Humanoid ahead of this fight, it makes the setup around the Drake that much better. Yeah,
but crucial, look at Razork and SkewMond's items. As we see fight here.
Mikyx is caught out, tries to jump away, but SkewMond and Labrov are going to chase him. There's the flash out of the support. No more needed for G2. They looked for Humanoid, couldn't find him, but Mikyx walked into the arms of SkewMond and Labrov.
Mikyx, no level 6 yet. He's not going to have the ultimate available. Lost the flash. Looks like Fnatic are hesitant to try and force this fight. They've already got one dragon of their own, but really good vision control from G2, controlling the river, moving into the enemy jungle, and finding that flash from Mikyx.
And Broken Blade actually hovered down a little bit, and I think that's why Fnatic were so docile in that position. But Broken Blade actually lost the full wave and the plate for that move, and I don't really think it was necessary.
Yeah, you can see Oscarinin about 5,500, that's bad English, 550 gold ahead in that top lane because of the plates, because of his CS lead as well. Across the rest of the map, small lead for Cap, small lead for Hansama, and a small lead for Razork. So, very even early game. Fnatic out to a small chunk of change.
I will say, though, Caps has played this early game incredibly. Oh, the Ornn.
As it comes out, Broken Blade flashes forward for the Brittle Pod. Bellows breath as well for another Brittle, but won't have the damage to follow up any further.
He didn't calculate through the scrap shield. He really thought he had a damage there because he knew Oscarin's flash was down, and he fought with the flash, Bellows breath, and the double clap that you get from the ult. He had enough damage to kill him, but Oscar kept the scrap shield, baited him in, and now just got Broken Blade's flash for free.
A heavy commitment. I guess the good news for Broken Blade is Herald is still 2.5 minutes away, so we will have his ultimate available for that, but no flash. It's not what you like to see. Now, Mikyx, no flash available for him.
Chain of Corruption is going to land. Caps there for the chase as well, and Mikyx down. Hansama gets G2's first of the game.
Second time now we've seen G2 just controlling this bot side of Fnatic's jungle. They convert it into a pick and they get themselves on the board. While the gold remains even, this Akali is very scary. Caps is in such a great position, and it's something that Fnatic have to be very mindful of as they assign their side lanes, because Caps' kill threat only continues to grow as the game continues.
Yeah, and that goes for both side lanes. Even if it's whether it's against Humanoid or Oscar, if this Rumble walks up on a side lane against Akali, he will also get one shot immediately. So the problem is now G2 has to really try to always match Caps where they can play aggressive, and they're gonna always leave Broken Blade on this island as you see. So Caps always has a hover from Labrov and SkewMond.
See how Broken Blade can survive on the weak side. G2's one of G2's foibles in the regular season was Broken Blade being caught out a few times too many on that weak side. Fnatic, though, haven't got out to the early lead that marked their split so far. Caps jumps in, the season assist. Caps dives into his demise. The DC knock-up chain from Fnatic was absolutely flipping perfect. Chase continues as Razork goes in with a Vault Breaker. SkewMond's going to try and jump his way away to the Gromp. Hansama here to Shadow. G2 need to walk away. They should be able to escape. Hansama, though, does still have the Flash and the Cleanse. Won't need to expend either to get out of Fnatic's clutches.
A beautiful response from Fnatic. Caps, this ever-looming side lane threat, is shut down so quickly. We talked in the draft about having that chain CC, the Vi plus the Rell combo, and my goodness, was it lethal. Caps didn't even get a chance to flash away as Fnatic find themselves another pick.
I gotta say, I'm a bit disappointed to hear that when Caps does this, Alistar is nowhere to be seen. What we said about G2 is that we want to see them be more connected with SkewMond and with Caps and with Labrov. This mid-jungle support, you saw we're not on the same page at all. As Caps goes in, his Alistar is clearing a ward in the banana bush.
And as you rightly say that, Mikyx has pretty much permanently covered Humanoid at every step of the way. It's same thing for Oscar. They've been very aware of where he needs to offer that protection, and his protection was invaluable as he keeps his mid and jungle safe, and they find a pick onto Caps.
And you see the gold balloon in Fnatic's favor as well. Now 1,000 gold lead. Humanoid actually has a small advantage in the mid lane. About 700 in top and jungle. The Rift Herald has spawned, G2 setting up around it. Currently a little bit pincered. Vault Breaker goes in, Razork flashes forward, Hansama cleanses away, but look at SkewMond, he's already down to about 400 HP. Labrov is left out to dry, and he'll dry pretty damn quickly. Fnatic lock him up. They're third on the board. Razork's looking for more as he tries to steal away the red.
And once again, G2 tries to take the river when their players aren't there. Ornn is catching a top wave, and Caps is rotating up from bot side, and they're already stepping deep into the river. And Fnatic is like, wait, we see your mid laner on mid, we see your top laner on top. We are just gonna go on you, and of course, because we have the numbers.
And Razork's Vi was something that was feared throughout the winter splits. And without any hesitation, he finds a very nice engage onto the backline of Hansama. And notice that he didn't commit his ultimate either, but Hansama has to flash in response through fear of that ultimate coming through from Razork, which means that with him out of the fight, it becomes a very easy pick and an objective secured. SkewMond doing his best to get something else on the map, but Fnatic not going to give him anything.
Next dragon up in 8 seconds time as well, and since the second dragon of the game, things have swung dramatically in Fnatic's favor. Triforce complete, Nash's tooth already done for Humanoid, and components of his next item as well. Flash forward, Magnet Storm. This is where the cease and desist that was saved from earlier comes to pay dividends. Hansama survives, but is hit by a rocket. Upset threads the uprights and finds him. Caps jumping in here. SkewMond hit the wind, becomes lightning. Upset the target, but look at the damage back on the Caps. Humanoid slides in, the Emperor's Divide. Caps goes in with perfect execution, but Upset still has a flash to escape. Labrov is down, Caps follow suit, and Fnatic clean away G2.
Fnatic once again coming out on top in these skirmishes, and I really have to say that G2 are still showing signs of incoherence. As we see the Ornn actually in the mountain will block the Herald there, but I'm talking about the Ornn, I feel like Broken Blade hasn't been in a single fight. I think Fnatic has always been fighting away from him, and I think we really need to start seeing G2 pay more dividends to the fact that they have an Ornn. He is a tank, he can take these areas, and he is your teamfight victory.
I just love the coordination that we're seeing from Fnatic right now, the way in which they save that ultimate, then when Hansama, he doesn't even overstep in the mid lane, but gets engaged on by Mikyx. Razork is there following up, and just look at how quickly Fnatic collapse on this engage. He's clearing out the wave, moving back to his tower, flash engage from Mikyx. It looks like an overforced play, but Hansama has no way to escape, buying time for his jungle and AD carry to arrive. A nice rocket comes through from Upset to clean up the kill, and at this point G2 is saying we have to get something back, but Mikyx again completely denies Caps from really getting involved in the fight. The Streamer Shuffle comes through, Upset is forced to flash away, but it's a flash that keeps him alive and puts Caps in a very difficult position. 6-1 the kills, 4K the gold lead. Fnatic came to play here in game 1.
Really felt like a sunk cost fallacy, the fact that Caps were in there. Really was like, we already lost AD carry, we have to get something on my move. And we really start to see this desperation from G2. They're always trying to go a bit too deep when plays are already over, or they don't have the numbers in place.
And it's something we saw even in the regular season. As we were VOD reviewing before today, you were talking about how often it would seem like Broken Blade felt he had to force something in a 1v1 on the top side because the rest of the map was collapsing, and now he's forcing onto Oscarinin in the bot side. TP coming in. Oscarinin hasn't lost that much health yet, but with Caps joining the fight, there's the shutdown. Caps gets the kill, and G2, when they force something, do manage to find something.
A much-needed shutdown for Caps, funneling that gold into his pocket to be that carry threat. A nice use of the teleport, knowing that Oscar really didn't have many places that he could go, so G2 still looking to be proactive on the map, even with the advantage that Fnatic has garnered. But Fnatic cross-mapping on the other side, pushing through top, pushing through mid, getting the resets off now. Ardakan going to be spawning in 40 seconds. Not an objective that we normally see immediately forced upon its arrival, just because of how scary the objective is to fight around. But Fnatic still with the lead, about 3.5k. As G2 are looking for their footing once more. They need to find more picks like this, attacking the side lane, funneling gold where they can into Caps and Hansama, who are the main damage threats on the side of G2.
Crucial now, it becomes really difficult for G2 to be proactive because you have no TP on Caps, no TP on Broken Blade, and meanwhile Fnatic has both their TPs up. That means anytime you fight on the map, you're gonna have numbers in Fnatic's favor. So you kind of have to play really slow now, and you can't really afford to be proactive just because the punish will be so great from these double or single teleports that will come in.
Wait it out so you can get the second items. Caps caught out here. Labrov waiting around the corner, sees the assist coming in as well. Humanoid dives forward, and the Emperor's Device spells demise for Caps. Labrov now on the wrong side of that wall. SkewMond diving in to try and help, but there's the TP. Hansama on his way across as well as Broken Blade. SkewMond already down to half HP. Labrov trying to get onto the backline as well, and Hansama's been able to pick up one. Equalize onto Hans, and SkewMond will force him away. Broken Blade calls on the Forge God. Will his prayers be answered? In a 1v3, I think not. Make it forward as Oscar comes around the corner to clean things up. Razork now 4-0-5.
G2 don't have the tools to force anything, but Fnatic certainly do. Finn was already talking about the TPs. They used that with Oscar to generate a numbers advantage, but Caps, he was just trying to go back to base. He was trying to reset. Mikyx catches him out again, and I feel like that Mikyx has been the bane of Caps' existence in this game.
Oh, it's so beautiful, but also G2, your mid laner just died. You don't need to commit for a fight. We said this before, it's just desperation from G2. Caps dies at the beginning of the fight, and now SkewMond thinks, I want to go in and fight as well. They just commit too much into a fight that's already lost. They could have just let him die here and run away and try to look for a better fight, but now they lose 4 members, and probably the Ardakan as well, as I said before, and probably is going to translate into something more than that.
The Rumble ultimate on the backline from Oscar to completely deny any sort of support from G2 as well, but you're completely right, Finn. Once they'd realized the Caps was gone, they should have just pulled the plug on the play and disconnected to recoup their losses, but now those losses have grown as we find a 5k gold difference. Third item being worked on by Humanoid. Look at how strong Razork is. He's been involved in every single kill that Fnatic have found in this game. And when we talk about the synergy that we're not seeing from G2, Razork and Mikyx are working together flawlessly.
Oh, absolutely. I think Mikyx and Razork, every single play has come from either one of them finding a really good pick.
Oscar chunked out a little bit there. Caps looking for Mikyx as well. That one's personal. Labrov dies in. Emphasis survive from Humanoid to keep himself safe. Chain corruption goes out as well as Humanoid has to slide away. G2 get a pick in mid lane as Labrov flashed in to catch out Mikyx.
And Finn learning firsthand the power of the caster curse. Just as we praise Mikyx, he goes for a play that ends up in his demise, flashing to try and catch out Caps. Caps is able to dodge away from the engage, and then he ends up paying for it. G2 recoup some of the gold difference. Dragon now spawning in 10 seconds. Mikyx will be alive for it, but I don't know if he can get here in time for Fnatic to really mount a strong response.
And a big, nice gust of relief for G2. They can finally slow down the game. They get this Dragon, which kind of stops the slow point for 2 more minutes. As I say that, Fnatic are coming in deep here.
Mikyx is on his way, currently about the Razor Pit. Labrov chunked out. Unbreakable Will is pretty damn breakable right now as G2 try and disengage. Equalizer down, 6 assists in, and the Crescent Guard doesn't guard you if everyone's on top of you. Oscarinin kills off SkewMond. 2 kills to Fnatic. The Drake was secured by G2.
This could be a good opportunity for Fnatic to open up the mid lane tower. A difficult tower to siege against the Varus with all that wave clear, but Fnatic, they want to try and push the advantage where they can. They've set their sights on the bot wave, but the wave clear machine of Varus is here to hold the line, and this opens up Upset to secure that mid tier 1.
Yeah, it feels more like Fnatic were gating G2 away from getting to mid lane with that, right? Playing through their jungle, making sure G2 couldn't take a quick route across. They secure the mid tier 1, and Fnatic now with a 6,500 gold lead with 2.3k of that sitting on Razork on this vibe.
Yeah. Once again, I want you to highlight, now suddenly it's G2 in the driver's seat with these double teleport advantages. So I think right now we need to see G2 try to make a play where Fnatic is discoordinated, either Oscar or Humanoid on the side lane, because if you're not going to make a play with this little advantage you temporarily have, I think the game's going to slip out of your fingers pretty fast.
So what would you do? How would you, if you're in this game, make a call to say, this is the play we make to get back in?
Well, I would say that Alistar, our man Alistar, has to go and look to put some deep wards. Probably have to do it where the enemy team is going to siege or where someone is going to push up deep. And I think that person will be the Azir, but also the Rumble, as I say here, is very easy to kill.
Call of Fortune coming out from Broken Blade. There's the TP immediately in from Caps. There were a couple of deep wards behind Oscarinin here, but Broken Blade just trading in. Equalizer down, Broken Blade tanky enough, but Caps will be here to secure the kill. Broken Blade should survive, and he will do so. Meanwhile, in the top side, you can see Humanoid and Razork pushing in towards that tier 2.
I mean, it's definitely a little messy, but this is exactly what Finn wanted to see. The pick, once again, given over to Caps. The TP response now coming through from Broken Blade to help defend the tower. Ultimately, a net gain for G2, using those TPs proactively to defend their base and also find a pick.
And I think this also highlights why in every single pro game you see, there's always 2 teleports. Almost every single game, the mid laner and the top laner has teleport, because G2 just came back into the game they were losing and defended Fnatic's play at the same time due to the power of 2 teleports.
Caps, though, has stayed around a little greedily for this bot lane tier 1. Razork's on his way across, as is Upset. Caps does have that Twilight Shroud, can try and dodge away. Jumps through Upset, but the season resist quick on the trigger there from Razork. Means that Caps can't escape. Upset now 5-0-4 on this Corki.
And when we come back to draft, we have to remember this Akali was second pick in response to the Azir. And you have to see the risks of locking in a very early Akali. This vibe from Razork is doing so much work at mitigating the mobility that we so often see being used as a strength for the Akali. That is now resulting in Caps once again dying in a side lane, and Fnatic now setting their sights on G2's jungle.
It really has been Razork's game so far.
Oh,
we were
really
talking
has.
about SkewMond's Shinsha, but it has been a pretty quiet game from him. We haven't really seen the impact that we were talking about in Champions League of this pick. And I feel like it's really due to the fact that Razork's proactiveness is something else.
Flash away from Hans Sommer as Mikyx jumped in with the Magnus Storm. The follow-up as well from Humanoid, but he's stopped in his tracks. Humanoid down, Broken Blade escapes the Equalizer, just a little bit of chip damage more than anything else. And so the red buff will be secured by Razork. Look at the damage from Hans Sommer. 3 items on that Varus. Now his poke is gonna hurt.
Robbery from G2. They were 4 versus 5 in that fight, and they managed to kill Humanoid and get out. That's a great play from G2, and really, really crucial to actually find them back into the game here.
I want to see exactly the positioning of Humanoids. Obviously, he's already at about 60% HP. He's looking for the start.
The call of the Forge God. Yeah. I wondered what knocked him up.
Yeah, that definitely was a misplay from Humanoid. He did not see the call of the Forge God, and he ends up getting punished for it. So now Dragon spawning in about 50 seconds time. Neither team on soul point, but this Dragon would put them there. The gold difference, as you can see, still in Fnatic's favor, but the atomization is what you need to pay attention to, and that's a death cap onto Caps. He is heavily committed onto having as much execution power as possible, and if he can take out Upset or Humanoid, it would provide a huge opportunity to swing the fight in G2's favor. but Fnatic is aware of that. And as you've already seen a lot in this game, Mikyx has deliberately been making sure it's hard as possible for Caps to play.
Yeah. And crucially, Humanoid open up to push out here. And that means G2 are now going to be 5-man strong in this river first, which means that it's going to be on Fnatic to phase check into the zone control that G2 has now obtained in this river zone. And that is really difficult against champions like the Alistar, like the Ornn, like the Varus, with so many easy ways to pick off individual members with CC.
Hans doesn't have his flash, nor does Broken Blade. Mikyx does have a flash Magnet Storm. Humanoid hit level 16 after pushing through that top side, highest level in the game right now. And G2 seed their position in the river. They give up that vision control that they had. Fnatic able to push them out.
I don't get it. You had the river control, you only need to catch the mid wave towards the bot side river, but instead you let Fnatic walk up and push you out of your own zone. I really, really dislike what G2 did there, because I feel like this was your zone to hold, this was your area of control, and this is where you could find the lead.
I think G2 has decided to give up the Drake quite a while ago. They're going to try and set up vision towards that top side. Mikyx stepping in onto Labrov. Will land the knockup, will land the stun, but where's the follow-up for the rest of the team? Mikyx dives forward, knocked back by Labrov. Razork coming in as well. That equalizer not doing much as Caps gets onto Oscarinin. Humanoid flashing forward, looking for the Emperor's Divide. Hunsummer somehow survives. Razork low. Hunsummer upset, able to take him out. Valkyrie forward. Caps down as well. Somehow Fnatic have won the fight after G2 engaged it 4-0.
They take 4 members of G2 out of the game, and they may very well set their sights on the Nexus. There's only Broken Blade left standing in their way as Fnatic dominating here in game 1.
A lot of skill shots went by that fight. I think the Varus ult didn't really connect onto anyone, and I think the Corki was just really, really strong. Humanoid found a great shuffle onto Hans, but in the end, I don't think it's enough.
Fnatic pushing in. Broken Blade dies under his Nexus tower. It's not tanky enough to survive the Fnatic onslaught. And in a statement game, Fnatic go 1-0 up in the series.
Coordination issues coming through from the side of G2. But my goodness, Mikyx and Razork, their coordination was on point. They made it so difficult for Caps to play the game. Razork was everywhere on the map. Mikyx was covering where he needed to. And Fnatic, I mean, with a few mistakes here and there for sure, overall, a very clean game.